Hi, CityChurch family. Sheldonom Armitage here from the CityChurch board with a short message for you for this week. You know, one of the hardest things about COVID-19 is the fact that we just don't know when it's going to end. There's so much uncertainty, so much different information out there. Some experts are predicting May. Some experts are saying this will be over in summer. Some are saying it's going to go into the autumn. Some are saying we really don't know and we should prepare for a long future in this new reality. And you know what? That's hard to live with. Uncertainty is hard to live with, especially when situations are difficult. And they are difficult for us right now. So one of the questions we could ask is, who should we believe? But I think a more important question for us to ask is, how should we live? What does hope and faith really look like in these times? Now, whenever you're facing difficult situations, you can be tempted to two different extreme ways of thinking. One, which comes easy to many people, is to be overly negative or pessimistic. We look at the difficult situation around us and we think, you know what, life is always going to be this hard. Life is always going to be difficult. We're always going to have to wear masks. We're always going to have to line up at the grocery store. We'll never be able to meet again as a church. You can see what negative, pessimistic thinking does. It causes us to expect and think the worst. And we can't do that. If we live in negativity and pessimism, you know what? It eventually will affect our minds, our hearts, our emotions, and even our bodies. So avoid the temptation to give in to negativity. Avoid the information and the voices that are saying things are always going to be terrible, always going to be bad. We don't want to live there. Now, we do want to grieve and feel the emotions of the loss we're experiencing right now. That's okay. We've all lost things in this time. We've lost freedoms. We've lost work. We've lost contact with one another. We've even lost meeting together. People have had to cancel plans and special trips because of this situation. And it's okay to feel angry about that. It's okay to be frustrated about that. But we can't let those negative emotions become our reality. We can't think that things will always be terrible. But we also can't go to the other extreme. And the other extreme is to be overly optimistic and overly positive. You know, some people call this faith, that we just ignore reality and say everything's fine, everything will go back to normal, tomorrow we'll wake up and the situation will be gone and everything will be the same once again. And because we don't like pain, we don't like uncertainty, it's easy to be drawn to information like that. It's easy to listen to those voices and to be tempted to think that, you know what, things aren't as bad as we think they are. And pretty soon, you know what, we're just going to forget this and everything will be okay. The problem with being overly optimistic is it doesn't match reality. The reality is things are tough. There's a sickness out there that has changed the way we live. It's difficult to be at home all the time. It's difficult not to be able to do the things that you want to do. It's difficult not to be able to meet together as a church. This is our reality that we're facing. And if you're overly optimistic and you don't see the real facts in front of you, you'll sometimes try to ignore pain. You'll ignore the reality and you won't do the things you need to do in order to survive. So we can't become overly optimistic either. So how do we live? If it's not pessimism, it's not optimism, what is it? I think this is what the real life of faith is. There's a pilot in the Vietnam War who was shot down over enemy territory, and he spent 7 years in a prisoner of war camp. And he experienced brutal treatment and torture, and yet he survived. And he helped other people survive. And when he was asked by researchers and experts after he was released how he survived, he said, you know what? It wasn't optimism and it wasn't pessimism. It was something else. It was this. He said, in order to survive the most difficult situations in life, you must have an unwavering faith that you will prevail. That is key. We have to have an unwavering belief that we will overcome this. But then he said, but you also must every day confront the brutal facts of the reality you live in. So it's not one or the other, it's actually both, living in that tension of saying, yes, we will overcome this. Yes, there is hope. But you know what? It's hard now. It's difficult now. And people of faith, we live in that tension. That situation is bad, but you know what? One day it's going to be better. And I'm not just talking about one day in the far future, but you know what? One day, maybe sometime this year, maybe next year, things are going to change. And so that's my encouragement to you today. Don't be tempted into pessimism. Don't be tempted into those dark places where you think nothing will ever change. But at the same time, don't live in the clouds. Don't ignore reality. But be a person of true biblical faith where you confront reality, but you also know that God is in control and that He is going to bring about a better tomorrow. We don't know when that's going to be, but we do know it's coming, and so we can live with wisdom, live with hope, and live with love. That's my short word for you. God bless.